Greetings everyone and welcome back to 365 Days of Prog. Today we're gonna be reviewing Stardust We Are by the Flower Kings.
Hi, my name's Naomi. I'm an avid progressive rock fan, but I'm a long ways from knowing all the prog albums out there. But this year, I'm gonna give it a try. This is 365 Days of Prog.
Yes, the Flower Kings. The second time actually we're visiting them on the series thus far. You might remember that we've actually reviewed the first album of theirs on the series in episode 221 when we reviewed Unfold the Future. So yeah, but today we're reviewing Stardust We Are, and here's some of my favorite bits from this album. So as I said, the last time we reviewed the Flower Kings, we reviewed Unfold the Future, which if you might remember, I did not take too fondly for that album, and I actually gave it a rating of 6 out of 10. And when I saw that today we yet again had an encounter with the Flower Kings, I was at least a bit happy for the fact that this was the last time we'll be reviewing this band on the series this year. But apparently my assumption was entirely wrong, because it's not only that we're not finishing with listening to the Flower Kings this episode, but instead we have 2 more Flower King albums to go through. Yes, this band has been lurking in the latter half of the series, so it didn't kind of feel like there was going to be any more of them, but apparently there is. But here's the positive side. While Unfold the Future was a laborious 140 minutes of runtime, and today's album is also pretty close with about 130 minutes, the next 2 albums were they're actually more decently paced and length. And it isn't a secret, one of the most damning characteristics of Unfold the Future had to be its runtime, which made me not like it a lot, so seeing as the next 2 albums will actually be shorter means that it might actually be better for me to listen to them, and I might even like them. But yeah, getting into it, today's album is the Flower Kings' 3rd studio release coming out from 1997 called Stardust We Are. Now just as a quick recap, you might remember that this band had a pretty strong start with their debut album Back in the World of Adventures, which was officially the first Flower Kings album, coming right after Ronja Stoltz's solo career, which he made the album The Flower King. But when the band came back in 1996 with their second album called Retropolis, it featured a pretty steady decline in the overall quality of the music. And well, for a band whose second album didn't succeed as much as the first, they should probably find a good strategy to make their 3rd album be better, and of course they went with the only logical resolution and decided to create an album which is actually a double CD album of more than 2 hours in length. Now, one of my main criticisms last time when I reviewed Unfold the Future had to be that I personally really didn't like this album and the sound of it, but honestly, if you like 1 or 2 songs from this entire album, you're probably also gonna like the rest because the sound is overall consistent in both tone and atmosphere. But I don't feel like the same actually goes for today's album, seeing as it is so varied in sound, yet the overall quality to me doesn't seem to be that high. Unfold the Future was an album inspired by all the prog greats, but never quite matching to them, while today's album just kinda seems to go in many different directions to explore many different things and mostly not succeed in any of them, and that's of course just my own subjective opinion of it. But the thing that I really don't get is how people can actually say the same criticism as Unfold the Future on this album as well. I see countless people stating that each and every song on here is a banger and that they loved all of them and that they love the consistency of the sound, but I just don't see it. I don't know how you can see it. There are songs which are so much opposite poles on here, and really that kind of baffles me. Now, I'll state this in advance. I don't think that an album of more than 2 hours of runtime can actually be a perfect or even a very good album. Call me naive, call me unknowledgeable, call me whatever you like, but I just don't see how you can compose a piece of more than 2 hours and still keep it all being just straight A's. And honestly, the thing that might baffle me the most is why even in the first place the Flower Kings actually thought this to be a good idea, to start making double CD albums year after year. It seems to me at least like it deprives the band from its actual brilliance. They have a lot of good ideas, but there's so much filler just crusting everything all over the place, and it doesn't seem to me like the right strategical choice to make actual popular progressive music. And you might call this an act of defiance in an age and an era where people have less retained attention to longer stretches of media. I still don't think that it's really a good reason, because honestly, as I said, it just deprives the band from its natural brilliance. Many people argue that the band on here and the reason that these albums are so long is just because the band is bursting out of its seams with brilliant and great ideas for music making, and thus they just have to put all of them on a very long album. But let's be truthful, do you consider a song like Different People or The End of Innocence to be just musical brilliance bursting out of its seams, put onto sheet paper and then recorded? Because I don't think so. Actually, you know what? I'll take it even one step further. I think that there are many songs on this album which really don't have a lot of justification to even be made, and only certain parts, if any out of them, should have been taken and put into bigger pieces. And I will elaborate even further and put on the screen right now a list of all the songs that I believe should be omitted from this album entirely. Yes, even the title track, the big epic at the end of 25 minutes, should be omitted from this album, because to me it was utterly forgettable, and after such a long, arduous and laborious journey with this entire album, the way that it ends off is with one of the most lackluster pieces I could have imagined. Honestly, such a forgettable piece. And with that, we are left with only these songs in the album, which all happen to be, when added up, to a runtime of 44 minutes and 21 seconds. Now, I know that this is a vinyl fitting runtime, and it's very much appropriate for the whole 45 minutes of runtime that vinyl usually portrays, but let me tell you, I did not do this on purpose. These songs, they're the ones that had some justification to exist on this album. I might not like all of them, I actually don't like a lot of them, but I do think that they have some intrinsic value that should be retained. And honestly, an album like that would have received, let's say, about a 7, maybe even an 8 from me, because it does have some quality condensed inside of it. But yeah, when I listen to an album like this, the first thing really that comes into my mind is just the fact that these songs weren't really reworked and well thought through. I actually think that these guys just kind of made their music and just threw it at the wall and didn't even stop by to see what sticks, and just released it all as it is, and I have no appreciation for it. And again, the long runtime of this album just makes it all the more worse. And seeing as we will be reviewing in the future one of the more recent albums by the Flower Kings, I really hope that the band actually came to that realization and started polishing and making their music better to create better results overall. But I guess we'll have to see that when we encounter this band for the next time. Oof. And I thought to myself that their first album cover reeked of late 90s and early 2000s, but this one's a masterpiece. The crude Photoshop design to the actual sunglasses to the textures on the text, this all is very much a period relevant sort of album cover, which today looks fairly cringy, or if you were around at the time might be some nostalgic value to it. But I'll give it this, I do believe that there is a very interesting concept to be seen on here. I like the idea of flowers in space and the band members having their heads floating around. It seems to me like something something that could be developed in a really good way, just on here was made in the cringiest way it possibly could have been made, and thus I think that an album like this and a cover like this should be reworked in a better style, maybe in the future in some sort of an anniversary. You know, if I only objectively and somewhat subjectively viewed the intrinsic qualities of this entire album and the songs to be found on it, I would have been giving it a rating of 6, but seeing as it has such a long runtime, such an arduous listen, so freaking long, I think that it has to deprave it of not 1 point, but 2 rating points, and I'll give it a rating of 4 out of 10. But yeah, that's about it guys. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for tomorrow because we're gonna be listening to The Geese and the Ghost by Anthony Phillips. I of course want to thank my lovely supporters over on Patreon, so thank you so much to Clay Wan, Arist of Kings, and Lindsay Haycox. You guys are just the best, and if any of you want to support me over on Patreon, you can find the link down in the description or in my about page. But that's about it guys, have a wonderful day and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Bye guys.